Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.
This is Emily Hicks, and you're listening to the Elder Law Hour, where we're offering insights and solutions for today's seniors so you can age with confidence. I'm going to get right to it today. We have a very special show. Kris Wilson is here, and he's the owner of MIE, which stands for Modified Independence Evaluations. And he is going to talk to us all about aging in place and what you can do to make your home a little more friendly as you age. And then we're going to be talking with McHale from St. Michael's Home Care, and he's going to be talking about having loved ones with dementia and give us some great tips on that. And first, we have Miss Edie Williams with State Farm in Ponte Vedra. She's going to be talking to us today about traditional long-term care insurance. And also, she's going to give us a really good hack for getting a life insurance product with a long-term care insurance rider. So stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I am here today with a very special guest, Christopher Wilson. Thank you so much for being here. And Kris is with, it's MIE, right? So tell me what the actual name is.
It's Modified Independence Evaluation. So
yes, Modified Independence.
So I named it Modified Independence because I'm an occupational therapist, and a level of independence that we give to our patients when we're evaluating them is either independent or modified independent. So for instance, say maybe you only have one arm and you want to put your shoes on and somebody gets you some elastic shoelaces. That person would then be modified independent with putting on their shoes because they have some sort of adaptive device in order to be able to achieve the same goal that you or I would. Okay. So I realized that my purpose in helping people be independent in their home was that they would be modifying their homes in order to be independent.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did you get started in this business? Because it's such a huge need for today's senior population. It's all about aging in place, right? I mean, that's what I literally hear it every day that I meet with clients is, I want to die at home. I don't want to go out of my home. So how can we make that happen? So that's where you step in, right, Kris?
Correct. Yep. So for 15 years, I've been an occupational therapist in home care, seeing patients in their home. And gradually over time, I was starting to see this like revolving door of patients that were falling. And we would discharge them, or we would work with them, and then we would discharge them, and then they would fall, and then they would go back to the hospital and back to the rehab, and then we'd work with them, and then they would fall. I want to get the most out of whenever I do anything. And if I'm doing something and it's not working for me, then I'm like, okay, we need to do something different. And the straw that broke the camel's back, I walked into a patient's house. She was in her 90s, and she had 7 grab bars in the tub area.
Oh gosh.
And she had had a stroke, and the therapist who was there before me told her that she needed another grab bar. And it was the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. She had a stroke. She was hemiplegic on one side. And here she has 7 grab bars, and somebody's ignorant enough to come in and tell her that all the grab bars were in the wrong spot and she needed one more grab bar.
Oh,
so I was like,
gosh.
all right, okay, let's indulge this line of thinking for a second. How much is a grab bar to get it installed? So I started calling around, and what I'm finding is grab bars are about $250 a piece to get them installed. And then I asked a few more questions and find out that the last time she was in the bathtub, she fell. And it was because, and this is before she had her stroke, she just wasn't able to hold on to the grab bars. So when you take it in totality, essentially I started my company because there's a need for people to understand what should be done to make their homes safer so that they can age in place. Because value-based purchasing hit in 2020. So people are getting less time in the hospital, they're getting less time in the rehab, and they're getting even less visits with home care. Yeah. So if somebody like me can come into the home and look at the space and help them understand what needs to be done, then that can be checked off. Honestly, the first 72 hours after they get home from the hospital is the most dangerous time because they're still unsteady. They're still trying to get their sea legs back or whatever and just try to get back into the swing of things. And the whole while, they just don't feel good.
Yeah.
So I branched out from home health, and actually my first foray into what I do is I started with the most complex people that you can imagine. I actually started as a contractor for the state of Florida working with the brain and spinal cord injury program.
Oh, wow.
So starting out from a base of being able to design a home that's appropriate for somebody who's in a powered wheelchair with a 42-inch base and a 48-inch turning radius, making sure that the counter is the right height, that the wheelchair can get underneath it, or the sink is the right height so the wheelchair can get up to it so they can still do their hygiene.
Yeah.
making sure of all of those things. So doing that made me realize that we're doing this all wrong, because I'm making spaces for people that don't have the ability to move their own body weight. So we've essentially taken strength and endurance, or strength and balance, out of the equation. So what's the problem with just making a space that's safe enough where somebody doesn't have to have strength and balance, but they can still get into the tub, or they can still get into bed?
Yeah.
So that's what I've spent the last 5 years figuring out, is how can we make these spaces so people are getting a return on investment, and that they get the safety that they need.
Yeah, because it's not a one size fits all. I mean, if let's say you're looking at, okay, your mobility is challenged, or you have specific set of, issues that you're dealing with physically, and perhaps mentally as well. I mean, hiring a contractor off the street, they're not really always equipped to handle this type of modification, right? I mean, it's such a specialty, right?
Right. So it's funny because they would tell you that they're ADA certified. Okay. ADA certified contractors is kind of like organic vegetables. There is no checks and balances to that, and there is no ADA certification for contractors. They just know how to read a manual that says that a curb has to be a certain height and the ramp has to be a certain angle. And the thing is that I spend a lot of time educating my patients and clients on is that the ADA is not applicable to your home.
Yeah.
For instance, my daughter is legally blind. What she would need in her home is not the same modifications that somebody would need who's had bilateral amputations, above knee amputations, and they're in a wheelchair.
Of course. Yeah.
So the notion that we're going to design a space that's going to work for everybody of every disability is unwise.
It's ridiculous, unwise. Really, when you think about it.
and the thing is people think, we've lived in our home for 40 years. It's time to do a refresher. We've been talking about doing the bathroom for 20 years, and now we can't deal with the tub anymore, and we might as well make an extra space, and everything like that. So the first thing they think is, I'm going to call a contractor. The problem with that line of thinking is that contractors are there to take your money and give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
I've had clients that I had one lady, she called a contractor because she saw an HGTV episode where somebody had a Roman shower put in. And I love saying it because I can tell how old somebody is when I say Roman shower. If you don't know what a Roman shower is, it's actually a step-in shower that's about 3 feet deep that people can soak in. And a lot of times they were built back during the 70s, but anymore they don't build them.
Yeah, so my parents have one, Kris.
Right. Yeah. And she called a contractor because she wanted a Roman shower.
Yeah.
And he was more than willing to do it. And he would have taken all of her money. And none of it was going to make it safer for her. But she was thinking, I could soak, and then I could stand up and take my shower. It's a big enough space that the caregiver can get in.
It's great, but it's a horrible thing to get in and out of.
Right. Yeah. And then if you combine it with the fact that she was thinking it was going to be a space that the caregivers could come into, and you should understand this as an attorney, we don't want people going into wet spaces where they could slip and fall. That's a workers' comp concern, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So every agency in the area says specifically to their caregivers, you are not to go into a wet area. They're not even allowed to walk into a shower to turn the shower on and adjust the temperature. So when contractors go in, we try to educate the patient, the client, and the contractor. Those hand controls for the shower need to be towards the outside. The handheld shower needs to be towards the outside. Don't put everything on the back wall. It's not a party. Everybody's not going in there. And it doesn't need to be that big of a space. It only needs to be 36 inches deep because, again, if I can't walk into that space, how am I going to wash the other side of your body?
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the process. Let's say, I'm assuming that a lot of people that engage your services have probably come out of rehab. Maybe they've had let's just say a really common scenario is the fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a fall, there's a hospital visit, there's a rehab, and then it's, okay, are we going home or are we going to go to maybe assisted living or something like that? That's when kind of the big decision is made and everybody wants to go home. So let's say they go back home, but and is that where you come, or hopefully when they're still in rehab, that's ideal, right? So you can get, a little bit ahead of the game.
I was waiting for you to lead there because that's exactly it. Honestly, if you had a headache and you didn't feel good today, do you think you'd want a bunch of contractors in your house ripping out your tub and trying to put in a shower? Right. No. And you're a young woman that
thank you.
Healthy, right? So you can imagine somebody who is considerably older than us, who's had a bad 9 days in the hospital, or 21 days in rehab. They just want to get home and curl up underneath the covers. The last thing they're going to want is a bunch of people running around the house fixing things. And like I said, the first 72 hours after they get home is the most dangerous. So a lot of times I get referrals while the people are still in rehab.
Right.
And that means that I can get out to the house. I can make the recommendations. They can purchase the stuff. And then inevitably what happens is they go home from rehab with skilled therapy coming in the home. And at that point, I've already done all the thinking. Now the therapist just goes in and puts the shower chair together and say, all right, Mrs. Smith, now we're going to learn how to use this new shower chair. Okay, and it's simple. Yeah. And they get something out of that. Instead, if you leave a home health therapist to their own devices, they're all going to come in and exercise for 20 minutes, spend 15 minutes filling out paperwork, and then they're out the door. And so by me going in there and helping get the home set up, then the therapist have something to work with. I mean, if I knew that the patient had a brand new shower chair, I know that I've got 3 visits with that shower chair. The first visit to do what I call a dry run. We don't turn the water on. We just practice getting in and out. We do that multiple times while I have my hands on them. Okay. The second visit, we do a wet run. We do the task. We do the showering task, right? While I'm still there to supervise. The third visit, they get in the shower, they take their shower. I stand outside the door, hang out, and wait for them to come out. They complete the task. Now they are independent. Well, modified independent because they're using equipment, right?
Right.
But by getting me in the home, the occupational therapist is automatically getting 3 visits for the shower. Imagine 2 more visits for the toilet, 1 more visit to practice getting in and out of bed with whatever restrictions that they have, things like that. So I'm substantiating what the occupational therapist should be doing in the home, because with value-based purchasing, what has happened is OT, PT, speech, and nursing for that same patient are going to be sharing 20 visits, which means that every specialty gets 5 visits. You're not getting anything done with 5 visits in 60 days.
Explain that to me, because I like the breakdown of this. So we're talking 20 visits, each person gets 5. So can you break that down for us, Kris?
So a 60-day, a home health period is a 60-day period. So 2 months. So if you can imagine, you would see your physical therapist 5 times in 2 months, which means that the onus is on you doing all those exercises and everything, right?
Which is probably that.
We don't exactly have a pool of seniors that are bodybuilders. You know what I'm saying? Nobody in this country. Many. Really.
Yeah,
we don't have a lot of them that are, that are out there just waiting to sweat to the oldies or get it on with Richard Simmons.
Well,
right?
I was going to say Richard. Is that a Richard Simmons reference? Because
absolutely.
I haven't seen that guy in a while.
Yeah. Well, you will soon. Pauly Shore's going to be playing him in the biopic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway.
Okay. So we're talking. Let's go back to what we were saying. So we have the physical therapy, and then
right. So what happens is the agency, if they're going to get paid by Medicare, and everybody's in business to make money, if they're going to get paid by Medicare and make money, then they have to keep everybody under 20 visits. So it never failed. I would go into a home and say, and this happened a lot, I would have somebody who had a shoulder replacement. Okay, shoulder, nothing to do with the legs, just the shoulder. They'd have a shoulder replacement, but the physical therapist would be convinced that their balance was bad, so they needed the preponderance of the visits. Meanwhile, the protocol from the orthopedic surgeon was that that patient was supposed to be seen 3 times a week by me. So if there's a balance problem and they've got a bad shoulder, now we're trying to figure out how to split those visits up. If you combine the fact that they just had a surgery, now they're on a new pain medication that probably conflicts with their blood pressure medication. Now the nurse is going to need those visits to make sure that they don't die from taking too many medications, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes this power struggle. And instead, what occupational therapists should be doing in the home, instead of treating the orthopedic injury, occupational therapists should be in the home working on functional tasks like ADLs or activities of daily living.
Right.
By us going in and helping them set up the space, they then can work on those ADLs. And that's the thing, right? There's 2 things that people are going to do to your body someday that you do not want them to do. You don't want people feeding you anymore, and you don't want people wiping your butt anymore, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You're past that, right? We grow out of infancy and we don't need people doing that anymore. And I guarantee you, my patients feel the same way. They don't want people feeding them, and they don't want anybody wiping their butt.
Yeah.
And that's where that independence comes in. If you're going to be independent in your home, you have to be able to do those 2 things. You have to be able to give yourself sustenance, and you have to be able to eliminate the waste. And if you don't do that and you don't do it right, you develop wounds and the whole thing starts over again.
And
So
that's
independence is not just a level of completion of a task. Independence is that you're doing the task and you're succeeding at that task.
right. Yeah, because what what we don't want to see, which is what often happens, is that cycle repeating, right? Because that's the real, I mean, we're all trying to stay out of the hospital. We're all trying to
Yep.
stay out of rehab, and certainly trying to stay out of assisted living and nursing homes if possible. So,
And people become more debilitated the more times they go to the hospital.
oh
The more
yeah,
times, I mean, honestly, when people have anesthesia, if they have dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, that anesthesia goes in, and I've never seen anybody come out at the same stage that they were at. The
oh
anesthesia
yeah,
progresses the dementia. The anesthesia definitely progresses Parkinson's. And
yeah,
we're talking about Parkinson's patients. We're talking about people who have a poor gait pattern and they fall a lot,
they
you know?
do.
And
Yes.
so the more times you fall, the greater chance you're going to break a bone. If you break a bone, a greater chance you're going to have a surgery. So not only did you just knock yourself down 2 steps, now you went even further down because you're going to have surgery to remedy the problem.
Well,
You
let's talk
know,
about some of the modifications that you're seeing. Let's say with, let's just go on the Parkinson's train for a minute.
Mhm.
So, what type of modifications are you suggesting for people? Like, I mean, everybody kind of thinks of the handrails for bathrooms and for to obviously to in showers and to get in and out of places. But what are some of the common things that you are seeing that you suggest for people?
So you hit on one of my 2 biggest problems that I have with making home safer, especially for people with Parkinson's. Okay, clinically, I can tell you that nobody who has Parkinson's who is ambulatory should have a ramp. Okay, the hallmark of Parkinson's is that they don't have the ability to dorsiflex the toes, lifting the feet up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't dorsiflex my toes and I'm walking upstairs, I can still get up the stairs. But if I'm walking up a ramp, I have to get my toes up or else I'm going to trip over my feet. So again, these Parkinson's patients, they don't think about somebody like me because I'm a brand new business and people are just finding out about this, right?
Yeah.
They don't think about that. What they do is they go, okay, we've got to make the home safe. So Mr. Smith doesn't fall anymore. They call a contractor, and again, the contractor comes out and they say, oh, yeah, I've seen this before, Mrs. Smith. Don't worry about it. I've got an idea. You've got an 8-inch step out there. Let's go ahead and put in a ramp. And then we're going to go ahead and just plaster the shower with grab bars and everything like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's usually what I see people do.
Right.
The
Right.
first thing is like,
And
we got to get a ramp and we got to
yeah,
get
now you can't even get them safely in the house. Now, granted, if they're in a wheelchair, obviously they need a ramp,
yeah.
right? But if they're not in a wheelchair, we shouldn't be hastening their progression to a wheelchair by
Right.
making the wrong recommendations.
What is the
And
right
then and then and
recommendation?
then and then the tremors, right? We're talking about Parkinson's. We're talking about tremors. How are they going to hold on to a grab bar
Yeah,
when they can't hold on to a cup of water,
I
right?
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
So
challenge.
so the answer is when it comes to stairs, there are modifications that we can do to stairs that take an 8-inch stair height and make it a 4-inch stair height. And
Oh,
if you think about it from a geometry standpoint, when you take that 8-inch step and you make it a 4-inch step, what you've effectively done is you've produced a ramp that doesn't require dorsiflexion. Okay.
yes,
We want
that
to
makes
get
sense.
bilateral handrails because we know that reciprocal movement is not a problem for them. As long as they keep going with a reciprocal movement, as long as the hands and the feet are moving in concert, then they can continue to move their way up the stairs. The problem is that if they're holding on to a bar and they're stationary, that's when the tremors come in and everything like that. That's when they become unstable. All right.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
in the shower, honestly, if somebody has a tub, there's a $55 solution for that tub, not a $12,000 solution. I'm not opposed to people spending their money however they want to. But if you're going to spend your money, you should be educated on how this is going to benefit you or how it's not going to benefit you.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, if people are on a fixed income, I don't know a lot of seniors that are just raking in money, right? So
Hmm.
if you're on a fixed income, you could fix your space, you could fix your tub for $55. Or we come out, we do an assessment, we look at your home and we tell you, okay, it's on a slab. It's going to cost you $20,000 to change this into a roll-in shower. Because again, we know the progression of Parkinson's, that they're most likely going to be non-ambulatory at some point, which means that if we had a roll-in shower, we could get them into a chair that would roll into the shower, right?
Hmm.
We don't have to worry about step-in showers. That's another problem
Okay.
altogether. I despise modifying around step-in showers. Step-in showers have not solved a problem for showering for anybody, and they never will. They
Okay.
end up being difficult for caregivers because, again, what we started talking about, right? Caregivers aren't allowed to get wet. So if you're in a step-in shower, there is no curtain to block off any of the water. You are going to get soaked as a caregiver. The
Ah,
patient is exposed. There's a lot of different issues with them. So I'd much rather see, okay, if you're going to spend the money and you really want to get that tub out of there, if you just cannot stand that tub, let's get the tub out and let's do a reasonably sized roll-in shower. And that would be my recommendation, right? We can take that person with Parkinson's and we can have them use their walker, which is a portable grab bar. They can use their walker all the way into the bathroom.
mm-hmm.
And if you think about a walker, they're pushing down on the walker. So they're keeping their balance by pushing down. Unlike a grab bar where they're holding their arms out, you're not getting any balance or stability that way. You're
Yeah.
getting balance and stability by pushing down on the walker. So
Yeah.
I encourage my patients, when they do have that ability, take your walker all the way into the shower. There's no reason to take your hands off and grab a hold of something. You're already holding on to the safest thing that you could. You trusted it on the gravel outside of the doctor's office. You trusted it in the yard when you went to get the mail. Why do you not trust it in the shower?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so funny, Kris, because a lot of the things that you're saying, they seem fairly common sense. But when you're in the situation and you have a loved one that is dealing
Yeah.
with something like this, all common sense goes out the window a
Well,
lot of
yeah,
times.
and we lean back on our friends, family, and neighbors, and we lean back on the things that we have seen for years, right?
Yeah.
So that's like grab bars have become ubiquitous. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of history. Grab bars were invented in the 1880s for people to hold on to while they were on a train or on the subway. Okay, so it provides stability. I'm holding still. The train comes to a stop. I have something to hold on to. Right.
Right.
So they were invented at that time. It wasn't until the 1980s when ADA rolled around that the government was like, hey, every business, you need to have grab bars so that people who are in wheelchairs, because we just had Vietnam. So we had this whole influx of people that were in wheelchairs, and wheelchair
Mm-hmm.
accessibility was a huge deal.
Right.
So the ADA says, okay, we need grab bars in bathrooms. Do you know which grab bar the ADA recommended the most for the toilet? The one that's directly behind the toilet. Because I can take anybody who's in a wheelchair, they can wheel the wheelchair up to the toilet. You grab a hold of the grab bar behind the toilet and you sit on the toilet the opposite direction. I have taught thousands of patients to do that way. That's the
Wow.
way that it should be done. A lateral transfer brings a lot of other issues into play versus a straightforward and a straight back transfer into the chair cuts down on the risk of shear wounds, cuts down on the risk of all kinds of issues.
Oh, okay.
All the other grab bars are the result of people being able to convince people that they need all of this other stuff.
Just
The
put them up
vertical grab
everywhere.
bar, right? The vertical grab bar, I call that the senior fire pole, right? The diagonal grab bar, love those.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
Never understood where that came from. But yeah, people see them everywhere. They walk into they walk into the restaurant, the bathroom at the restaurant. They see the grab bars, so they're like, you know what? Someday when I get old, I'm gonna have a bunch of those because that seems to make things safer.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Just
Yeah,
get some grab
yeah,
bars
and
on.
honestly, I'm not that smart. It's just like you just talk about common sense stuff, and you look at a problem and you find a common sense solution.
Well,
It's not that hard.
I mean, but that's what you've done. And that's what's so great about your business is because, an ever increasing population of people are facing these issues. We have, number one, we just have more people than we ever have.
Mm-hmm.
But number two, with the cognitive decline and our poor health that we have that's just rampant in our society. I mean, so many people are facing these issues, but yet I love that you have come up with a solution because they really, all I ever see people do is put in the grab bars and the ramps. I mean, I'm going to be honest, like and maybe the walk-in shower if it gets to that point. So I love that you have this service. So Kris, if someone is in need of your service, how can they find you?
So my name is Kris with a K Wilson. You can Google me. I come up a lot of different ways. I have a YouTube channel where I talk about equipment. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under my name, and my company name is Modified Independence Evaluations Incorporated. If you don't feel like typing in however many letters that is, I still haven't taken the time to type it out. We changed the name of my business to MIE, so you can find us that way. But honestly, the easiest way to find us, my website is www.callbeforemomfalls.com. We're asking you to call. We're giving you a time when you should call, which is before the most important person in your life hits the ground. Call before mom falls. Simple as that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I think this has been a great conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've had a great time too.
Oh, good. And so we're going to also put that link on our website, elderlawhour.com, if you want to head on over there and find out more about Kris and this episode. And this is Emily Hicks. You're listening to the Elder Law Hour, and we'll be right back.
Are you approaching retirement or entering a new chapter of life? Now is the time to consider critical decisions that impact your future and the well-being of your loved ones. As you navigate this transition, ensure you've secured your legacy through proper estate planning. Don't fall into the common misconception that you and your spouse can make decisions for each other in times of legal incapacity without a plan in place. Without proper estate planning, you risk a probate judge making decisions for you, which can be costly and cumbersome for your spouse. Protect your assets and ensure they align with your unique circumstances and objectives. Avoid the default state laws that may not reflect your wishes and could lead to unintended consequences, such as disinheriting your spouse or forcing them to litigate your estate. You also may be considering the possibility of a new relationship after the loss of a spouse. It's essential to enter these relationships with clarity, safeguarding your assets and preserving existing family ties. A premarital agreement becomes crucial in these situations, providing legal protection and clarity. When it comes to your children, thoughtful estate planning is key. Protect their inheritance from squandering, divorces, lawsuits, and bankruptcies. Your hard-earned wealth should be a source of security, not vulnerability. Additionally, plan for long-term care, a significant consideration as you enter retirement. Secure a long-term care insurance policy while you still qualify, and explore alternatives that can convert into life insurance if not needed. Statistics show a 70% likelihood of requiring long-term care after the age of 65, making proactive planning essential. Our team can guide you through this process, helping you replace impersonal state-written plans with a tailored approach that safeguards your assets and family. Don't overlook estate planning as you approach retirement. Book a call with us today to secure your future with confidence. Visit emilyhickslaw.com and book a call today. We'd love to help.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. I'm excited to have Sean McHale as a guest today. He is the owner of St. Michael's Home Care. Sean, thank you so much for being here, and we're really excited to have you talk about home health care today with us on the show. So welcome back.
Thanks, Emily. Happy to be back.
Let's dive into a tricky topic. As more and more people get diagnosed with dementia, it seems to be a disease that is just becoming more and more prevalent in today's society, and it's extremely difficult for us to deal with. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how to care for a loved one who has dementia. Sean, you see this every day with your clients. A lot of times as you get older, I mean, I experience this myself. My husband certainly experiences this with losing his keys and wallet on a weekly basis. When is it just forgetfulness? When is it like, oh, I'm just really distracted, or mom has forgotten that she put that in the refrigerator or something like that? So can we talk about what are the signs to look out for with dementia?
Sure. And I will say I'm certainly a victim of that too sometimes, but those types of things like forgetting where your keys are, or forgetting, that your son has a swim meet or something like that. Those are all common things. So that's not a sign that we all need to be worried that we have early onset of Alzheimer's or something. But the main cues that you would look for is forgetting important things, names of people, or another cue is hallucinations, behavioral issues. If people are wandering and a flight risk, those types of things would be a bigger cue that someone is having those symptoms of dementia. More specifically, Alzheimer's is probably the most common form of dementia. I think that it's important to know how to communicate with people who have those types of cognitive impairments. One of the things that I notice frequently is family members who will talk to their loved ones who have dementia that will constantly quiz them. Hey, mom, do you remember what we did yesterday? Or, hey, mom, do you remember your grandson's name?
Oh, gosh, yeah. That could be
always try to avoid those, putting somebody on the spot, because that makes them withdraw even more. Because if you're pointing out the fact to someone that, hey, you are forgetting things, or you're saying things that are inaccurate, then it makes people shy away a little bit more. So
understand that.
But those types of things, forgetting certain, important things that happened that there's no way you would ever forget, would be a sign, versus if you can't remember what you had for dinner last night. Those would not be a telltale sign. But if it's something that is continually happening, or if you're having a conversation and then within 5 minutes you don't recall having that conversation, that would be a good sign that, yes, I'm having some cognitive impairments that you may want to talk to a doctor about.
That's interesting. You mentioned wandering off and not really engaging in the activity of the moment. I've seen that happen quite a bit too.
Sure. And that can be a very scary thing, because again, a lot of times people with dementia, if you ask them certain questions or direct questions, they can fool you. If you have a very short, brief surface conversation with someone, it can be hard to detect. If you ask someone, "Hey, how are you doing today?" "Oh, I'm doing fine." "Oh, mom said they're doing fine. She doesn't have dementia." But if you ask some more detailed questions, "Hey, mom, you had a doctor's appointment yesterday. How did that go?" If they can't recall the appointment at all, then okay, you may have pinpointed that we have some cognitive impairment.
I read a while ago that it was really important not to necessarily disagree with the person, that you kind of just go along with whatever they're saying and just perhaps redirect maybe in a couple of minutes. I hope this isn't offensive to somebody, but like the advice that you kind of, with a child, the parenting books out there nowadays are all about redirection. They want to engage in a certain activity and you can't really do that. So you have to redirect into something else. So is that one of the strategies for effectively communicating with somebody with dementia, is just kind of accepting whatever they say, almost like an improv class and going with it?
Well, and you know what? You're right. It is. And I always say that if your loved one may tell you something that is absolutely not true, if the sun is shining and it's a beautiful day outside and they tell you it's midnight, if you're having that logical discussion, you may think, all right, well, one person says one thing and you're saying that, no, it's totally different. If you go back and forth and tell them, no, you're wrong, this is how it is, in their world, that is how it is. In your world, it's obviously not. Now, you could go back and forth all day long, but each time you say, no, you're wrong, their anxiety level is going to go up, because in their world, they're right. If you're having an argument between two people and then one person finally says, you know what, I agree with you, then the argument's over, right? So we train our staff when they're working with people with dementia and they say something that is absolutely not correct whatsoever, to never say the word no. Always agree with them. And then when you're agreeing with them, you can tweak it a little bit to your advantage. So let's say, for instance, this happens all the time. We've got a caregiver in the house working with an individual, and we know this person cannot be left alone. They get 24-hour care. They always have someone with them. And they tell their caregiver, you know what, I'm doing okay. It's time for you to leave. You can go home now. And the caregiver, again, logically, you would want to tell them, well, no, I work for an agency and your family has hired me and I'm supposed to be here until 8 p.m. tonight. And so I am not leaving. Now, again, now you've got an argument, because in their world, hey, this is my house. You don't belong here. You need to leave.
Right.
And you say no to them. Now, this is where problems arise. This is where we start getting angry. The person can get upset and start yelling, and it can be a really dramatic experience that nobody wants to go through. So in that situation, you can change it by saying yes, but tweak it a little. So in that instance, if someone says, hey, it's time for you to leave, you need to go now, the caregiver should turn and say, oh my gosh, you're right. It is time for me to go. I agree with you. But, and this is where you can change the narrative, and you can change it by a technique called therapeutic fibbing. This is something that the Johnny Bird Alzheimer's Institute in Tampa, they've got some really good information about communication. And so we can train our caregivers to say, yes, it is time for me to leave, but I can't find my purse and my car keys are in my purse. So once I find my purse, then I can leave, because you said it's time for me to leave and I agree with you. Then the argument isn't there, because the individual knows that, okay, they get me. They know they're going to be leaving. So the next thing is, let's go find the purse. oftentimes when we know this is going to happen, we will tell our caregivers to go in and actually hide your purse somewhere, maybe on the top of the refrigerator or in
I
a
love
cabinet
this.
somewhere. And
Yeah.
so
To keep them
what
from being wrong, right? So yeah.
so then our caregiver will say, all right, can you help me find my purse? Because you said it's time for me to leave, and I agree with you. And so then the client most likely will say, yes, of course, because I want to get you out of my house. So together we go around the house, and as we're looking for the purse, the caregiver starts talking about other things to redirect their attention somewhere else, saying, oh, hey, I see this great photo of you on the beach. Where was this taken? I would love to go there. And then the caregiver can keep talking about, I was on the beach 2 years ago and this was wonderful. And then if you can get the client focused on that photograph, then you can use that short-term memory to your advantage, to where they will even forgotten that it's time for you to go. I always say those caregivers, whether it's a loved one or a caregiver themselves, to have something like that in your back pocket ready to go, and not to be a deer in headlights when someone says something that isn't true at all.
Right. Yeah.
So trying to control that narrative a little bit, but it can be tough, but I've done it quite a few times. And if you've got the right body language, if you have a smile on your face and let them know that you're not a threat, I understand what you're saying, but tweak it a little bit, and then you can control that environment a little bit better.
Absolutely. So important to have a few things in your arsenal, right? So that you're ready to handle that situation without skipping a beat, I'm sure, because the last thing you want to do is upset them. Their world is rocked already. So you really want to keep everyone calm and keep everyone feeling safe. So one thing that I think we had talked about is name tags. Quite often, even those of us without any cognitive impairment can forget people's names. Is that something that you use with your agency?
We do, especially with those individuals that have that cognitive impairment, that have short-term memory loss and will forget things. We even sometimes encourage, on some occasions, encourage the family members to wear a name tag when they go in to see their mom, because I've talked to sons and daughters that say, it's really difficult for me to go and visit with my mother because she doesn't remember who I am, and I always have to correct her. And so I told them, sometimes wear a name tag and just put in, my name is Danny and I'm your son. And so when she reads it, then she immediately knows. And again, it prevents them from withdrawing from those situations. We all have been in the situation where you may have met somebody out on the street and they start talking to you and you're thinking, oh, what's their name? What's their name? I can't remember their name.
Yes.
So people with dementia think of that same situation, but think of it happening over and over again inside your own home. And so that can be a very daunting thing to think about, that I can't remember who these people are. They act like they've been here all the time, but I don't even know who it is.
Right. Yeah.
I've had couples, a spouse that will say, I think this is my husband, but I'm not sure. And so the husband, of course, says, yes, honey, we've been married for 50 years, but it happens. And so we've had, sometimes the spouse will wear a name tag that says, I'm your husband. So reminding people, again, those sorts of things can make it easier to live and have a normal, as much of a normal life as you can, and avoid those types of arguments and those types of negative situations by just doing something simple like wearing a name tag.
That could avoid so much. It reminds me of my mother. A lot of times she would mistake my dad for her brother. So she would think that he was her brother. And then other times she was just angry at him because he had to give her medicine or something like that. And she just called him that man.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, that man is trying to give me medicine again. You make sure that it's correct. This has been really helpful. I love some of these tools. I think this can be really great for those of us who have been in the situation or that are currently in the situation where you have a loved one with dementia, knowing how to communicate effectively with them so that it doesn't cause them any more stress. And it actually makes it a little bit easier for you too. So Sean, thank you so much. If one of our listeners is in this situation and they'd like to get in touch with you, how should they do that?
The easiest way to reach us would be to go online. Our website is stmichaelshomecare.com, or you can Google St. Michael's Home Care and you can find us there.
Great. Thank you so much for being here today. I think this was really, really helpful. I think it's really important for the education process and for us to really get this out there to help ease their stress and their burdens a little bit. So thank you so much, Sean.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks for having me.
This is Vicki Oakes, your St. Johns County Supervisor of Elections. The 2024 elections are coming. They will be here soon. Are you election ready? If not, and you need to be, you can visit our website at votesjc.gov. That's votesjc.gov, or contact our office at 904-823-2238. Make sure you are election ready.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I have Edie Williams here with me today from State Farm Insurance. We're going to be talking about long-term care insurance, right, Edie? Even though that's not a product that you guys actually carry, is that correct?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me back. It's so great to be here. And the information you guys have is so relevant and current that I love being a part of this. And long-term care is kind of a thing of the past. It's still out there, the pure standing long-term care insurance, but we can talk a little bit about what's more contemporary and some of the awesome options that are available today.
I get this question a lot, and I get a lot of clients that come in and, you know, I think it was funny. I was listening to another attorney's podcast the other day, and he is an elder law attorney as well, and is saying, I really think that attorneys should start talking more about long-term care insurance with their clients, because a lot of people don't really know what it is. Most people don't have it. And sadly, most people are going to need some form of long-term care coverage. I think the estimate, and this is the estimate that he gave, so I don't think this is like 100% accurate. It seems like just a tiny bit high. But he said 70% of people are looking at expenses for long-term care. And, you know, we cover our houses, we cover our cars. We're not very likely to, hopefully, knock on wood, not very likely to use some of the coverages that we have. But here we are with this huge gap in, you know, when you're looking at a family's plan, they don't have any real way to pay for it. And it's quite expensive. Let's talk about that, because when you sit down with a family and you, Edie, and you look at what all they've got, what is that process like for you?
When I'll actually go back to your stat with our resources, we quote 75% chance that people will need some form of long-term care after age 65. So that number is alarming. It's a large number, whether it's 70 or 75%, it's most of us, right? More than most of us. So it's not if, it's when. And most of us can relate to a situation. And that's when you start paying attention to this. If either you've taken care of a parent or a loved one, and you realize the gap that's there. So when we meet with clients and we look holistically at their strategy and risk management, we walk through this, and we walk through things exactly what you said. You cover your auto, you cover your home, you cover some risk management that is obvious to you, life insurance, but have you thought about this? And we ask if they have a will, because so many people, as you know, don't take that in consideration. And then we ask about what happens when 75% of you, chances are you're going to need some type of coverage for long-term care. We talk about how it coordinates with other coverages that are out there. But what's that look like? And it's typically a pretty big aha when someone says, you know, well, I have these assets set aside for that. Then you start running the math, and is it enough? And then what does it do to my wealth management? No matter how big or little my circle of wealth is, how is it going to impact what that looks like and I'm going to pay for it? And then also, is it going to impact what I'm able to leave as a legacy for my family, if that's one of my goals? So it's a big thing to look at. And we find most people don't look at it until it's too late. We start talking about it to someone when they're late 40s, early 50s. I mean, you can talk sooner than that, but we definitely put it on the radar to start taking a look at it around that time frame.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because everything, you know, all of the insurance guys that I know, and gals, they always say, look at that when you're, in your 50s is like the latest possible time. You're not going to be able to get it after that. So you make sure, you know, it keeps getting earlier and earlier. I feel like everyone keeps saying earlier. But yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, most people don't have it. And the people that do have it, Edie, the problem is that they're premiums are so outrageously expensive. I'm thinking of a particular couple that I just met with, and they were kind of asking me, is this what you're seeing? Is this how much people are paying for this? Because it keeps going up, and I don't know that we can continue to afford it. However, we have paid for so many years and so much money into this that they don't want to lose it at this point. So when you and I spoke about this problem a few months ago, you were talking about a solution for that the industry has come up with. And that is, can you explain a little bit about that for us today?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk you first about just the cost of long-term care in general, which is what
Sure.
you speaking with that. The cost in Jacksonville, and you can look at each region where whoever might be listening to this is located, but the cost in Jacksonville, Florida is around $4,500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for just average cost. And the average length of the need is about 3 years. So if you just do the math on that, let's like $160,000. So if you just take, here's what I have to kind of plan for. And then like the couple that you were speaking of, let's say they've paid into it, like most insurance, I've paid into it. I hope I never need it. So maybe I've paid less than $160,000 for this policy. Hope I never need it. But it's lost money. And if I need it, great, I've got the coverage. But if I don't, how do I feel about that?
Yeah.
So the product, let's talk about maybe first some of the traditional methods that have been out there, and then talk about the contemporary options that are out there. And the traditional ones are the one. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Can I just speak to those numbers too? The numbers that I see a lot of are creeping up into with skilled nursing and things like that. It's over 12 grand a month. And
Wow.
That is really shocking to people, but it's depending on what your needs are and where you are, 12 grand a month is really like a norm now, for a higher level of care. So that's quite a big bill every month to pay. So, and when you're looking at the average, and let me do this math, Edie, I'm gonna have a calculator, thank goodness. So if we're looking at 12 grand a month, for 3 years, that's
3 years.
$432,000. That's a lot of checks to write. And I think, just to speak to your point earlier, leaving something for the next generation is a value that I find highly prevalent with people that I plan with. Most people with the older generation that are looking to pass down what they've worked so hard for, I mean, that is a source of pride for them, and it does matter to people. And so, it's a lot of what what I'm doing is how can we mitigate this cost for them? So anyway, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about those numbers. I don't want people to think it is, that may be the average cost, but when you're talking of a higher level of care, I'm seeing like 12 grand and over. It's very, very high. So anyway,
wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, and who wants to, when you ask someone, would you like to have the lowest end of care?
Exactly.
Right. So that's probably what's those differences in range are too. And especially when it comes to making those decisions, if you're making them as a child for your parent,
yeah,
you want the best, or your spouse or someone you love and care about, you want that best of care. And that's that 12 grand a month. Yeah. It's just crazy. But so traditionally you could pay with that, and still can, through a couple ways, just through your own funds that you've accumulated,
out of pocket,
out of pocket, from savings, investments,
family,
everybody pooling together, GoFundMe, whatever, those kinds of ways. Yeah. Some people, reverse mortgage is a solution. That's where you take equity in your home and do that process. Long-term care insurance, which is what we spoke of just a few minutes ago, you can have that. But as we've seen, the premiums continue to skyrocket. Why? Because it is health insurance. So as the cost of health insurance goes up, so will long-term care. As the cost of, or the length of time people live. I thought I priced this for this particular customer based on average length of age now, but people are living longer and that impact on it. So it is a product that continues to go up. It's based on those factors. So the industry started looking at that and said, we can't continue to market this product the way it's designed because people can't project what that cost is going to be. So they came out with something new, which is, I really love it. And it's actually a life insurance product that has a component of long-term care with it. So you pay for it. If you never need it, it creates cash value in the product, and it also creates a death benefit. That is the perfect solution.
It
I
really
pay into
is.
this product. Yeah, I pay into this product. I hope I never need it. And when I exit this world at 113 years of age, which is my number, my projection, then it creates a death benefit for whatever I've intended by working with you on my estate for that death benefit to go to, whether it goes to my estate taxes or to a charity or to my family or whatever, it's there. But then the other side is the what if. And if the what if happens, the thing that I do end up needing some long-term care at any point, even if it's just for a partial point of time, or if it's for a long period of time, it creates a pool of funds that can be used for long-term care expenses. So we can talk more about that. Yeah.
Well, that's a really great added benefit.
Yeah. And the way it works is, so let's just use it for example. Let's say I have a $500,000 death benefit policy of this type. All right. So I have a $500,000 death benefit and I pay into that. And I'm rendered where I can't do 2 of the daily functions of living by my doctor. Okay. So my doctor says, I'll go over what those daily functions of living are. And they're pretty much, when I wake up, can I get out of bed on my own? That's one of them. Can I get to the bathroom and go to the bathroom by myself? That's 2. Can I take a shower or bathe? That's 3. Can I get to a place of comfort, like a chair, and get myself there for the day? And can I feed myself? Yeah. Those are very basic functions of living that if I can't do one of those, 2 of those, as determined by my doctor, then I can make a claim. That's it. And again, like I said, it could be a temporary situation. Maybe I broke my hip and I'm going to be, for 6 months or something, I can't do those things. Policy can kick in. So the policy kicks in, and then what it does is it pays 2% of that death benefit. In the example I gave of 500,000, it pays 2% of that. Do that math for me, Emily. You've got the calculator.
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
I know it, but I just want to walk through that math with you because it makes us think about it.
That's $10,000.
$10,000. So $10,000 would be paid directly to you as the person who's insured on that policy. For you to pay someone to mow your yard, for you to pay someone to come into your home and take care of you, pay for a family member who's got the credentials to take care of me. It doesn't just mean I'm going to go into a long-term care facility. So it actually is there to pay for those things that because you can't do 2 of the daily functions of living under that policy. And then at the end of the day, there may be some benefit left that would still pay out at death time to the beneficiaries. So it's just a really, really interesting product that has made it more realistic in how I can solve this gap in my coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it really overcomes the objections to long-term care insurance, which is number one, it's really hard to get. And number 2, it's just incredibly expensive. And the premiums continue to rise and you really don't know how much it's going to be. You don't know how long you're going to pay for it. And then you just don't know if you're going to need it. I mean, obviously the stats look pretty bad in terms of it looks like most people will need some coverage as they reach over 65. But we don't know. You just really don't know what's going to happen. So that's why this is such a great solution to that, because you actually, it doesn't feel like you're, I don't want to suggest that it's throwing money away. I would never suggest that about this type of insurance. But I will say that just for the client conversations that I have, that's the big objection for people is that they don't want to spend all of this money and then not get anything back.
Absolutely. That's the way insurance feels a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because I've paid a lot of money for something I hope I never need.
Yeah.
But I understand the risk and how I can move that risk from myself to a larger pool, which is what insurance is all about. So I love this one because I hope I don't need it again. But if I do, I've covered that gap. If I don't, then there's a death benefit that goes immediately to my beneficiaries. A lot of times our death claims are paid within about 10 days if it's a claim made, and then no tax on that when it's passed to the beneficiary. It has, you can project exactly what's going to be in that policy in terms of value, cash value. You can even cash it in and let go of it at some point if you've decided you're ready. Like, hey, I'm 100, I'm not going to want this anymore. I'm 90, I'm not going to want this anymore. So it gives you some options without totally losing everything that you've put into it, just like walking away. So, and for what I recommend for people that are maybe still on the fence on how to approach this is even putting some policies in place, a policy in place that might have a conversion option, which means you put a term policy in place that has the ability to convert to this type without underwriting, some underwriting. When you're ready to make this move, you would have to probably go through underwriting depending on the company with the flexible care, the long-term care piece. But if at least you've got something locked in, then the insurance company can work with you on some conversion, which is another type of something we could talk about. But just getting the notion out there of it's one of those things I got to think about it before I need it. It's not beautiful to think about, but I will not regret, and neither will the people that care about me, if I put this on the radar and think about it before I need it.
Yeah. So for our listeners, how should they approach this with their insurance agent? What should they ask them for?
That's a great question. First, look holistically at where the gap is. So they can take all these other things in consideration. You don't have to just cover it with one of those things. So maybe part of it you approach with some existing coverage you have in place or some tools that are there. And then I'd start by saying, what does it even look like from a eligibility? Can I qualify? Most people can, but can I qualify? And then let's do an application and see where I come in, and we can respond to that and then work from there. But it can help me put some numbers to it, because it's really a numbers game. Two things: can I qualify? Which most people can if they start looking at it before they need it, and then what's that number look like? And then I can run the math from there. And we always say, go ahead and get that application going so that you can take a look at if you want it or how you want it, how much you want it. And the insurance company can look at you and say, what are we willing to offer? Then you got something to work for. Just don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. And if your current provider doesn't offer it, most people have somebody who they can help you find that does, and then take a look at it, get it on the radar.
Yeah. And Edie, if they want to find you, how can they do that?
www.ediewilliams.com. So you can just search State Farm, Google Edie Williams, and you'll get my website. Just drop me an email, give the office a call. We meet with people over the phone, in person. We'll come to you if you want to, email, however it's easy for you to do. And we would love to help you with this concept.
Well, Edie, thank you so much for being here. I think this is something that I think solves a lot of problems for people. And I'm really, really grateful that you were here to talk about it today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. And that was Edie Williams. And we are going to provide a link to her on our website, elderlawhour.com. You're listening to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to invest in real estate without the headaches? Look no further than investjacksonville.com, your trusted partner in turnkey real estate investments. With over 18 years of experience, our process has been fine-tuned, and now we're opening up our team to other people just like you. At investjacksonville.com, we're selective about who we work with because we believe in delivering the best. Our dedicated acquisition team scours the market to find the finest properties, while our skilled construction and maintenance team ensures every detail is taken care of. From new roofs to granite countertops, HVAC systems to plumbing and electrical, we leave no stone unturned to make sure there's no surprises. We're in this together with our investors for the long haul. With our first-year guarantee, we put our money where our mouth is. We guarantee your rental rate for the first year, giving you time to build reserves and budget for any surprises that may come your way later. We believe in our construction team and our tenant placement team, which is why we offer this unbelievable guarantee. We're committed to your success and peace of mind. We're passionate about making it simple and easy, and a no-brainer for others to get started investing, because we know what real estate can do for people to reach financial freedom. So if you're ready to invest with confidence, contact Invest Jacksonville today at 904-536-3000 or visit our website at investjacksonville.com. Let us show you why there's nobody quite like us. investjacksonville.com, your authentic partner in hassle-free real estate investing. Contact us now.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Elder Law Hour. Please visit our website, elderlawhour.com, to find out more information and connect with us. Or you can visit Emily Hicks Law and you can make an initial call request right on our website. We will see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. Join us this and every Saturday for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.